In this age of new normal, online is not your only option. Because new normal means new learning modalities and new learning possibilities. Let Vibal make learning offline possible with Smart Class. Smart Class contains pre-made daily modules sequenced according to DepEd's budgeted teaching and learning calendar. Each module has a specific lesson duration and has day markers to guide parents and teachers in the asynchronous learning of learners. Inside the modules available in Smart Class, you will find the following elements. First, learning competencies are identified in the module openers. Kickstarters are available to test students' prior knowledge on the subject matter. This set of activities, found at the beginning of each lesson, may also serve as motivational activities. Parents of preschool to grade 2 students will also find notes to parents which contain tips and pointers on how they can guide their child while learning at home. Redefine your students' learning experience with the integration of augmented reality technology into images and illustrations available in Smart Class, making learning more interactive and exciting. At the end of each module, Long Quiz is also available to assess students' understanding of the lesson. Smart Class also features Wrap Up, a lesson ender activity that applies the Constructivism theory of learning. In Wrap Up, Students are expected to summarize the lesson on their own using a graphic organizer. You may also evaluate the quality of your students' learning by letting them practice their learning in real life through GRASP's formatted performance tasks. The content of Smart Class is designed for the entire academic year, and it is available for 5 major subjects. All aligned with DepEd's K-12 curriculum and covers the most essential learning competencies prescribed by DepEd. Secure your own copy of Smart Class before classes open. Contact marketing@vibalgroup.com to know more.
Good evening, Kabibal, and welcome to our Learn at Home live session. For the discussion today, the topic will be facilitating learning at home, approaches and strategies in teaching high school students. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions in the comment box allotted during the session and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kabibal. And now, to proceed with our webinar this evening, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker for tonight. Our speaker started teaching in 2010 at La Consolacion College, Manila, and shortly after 2 years, he was appointed as the subject area coordinator for social science and interest area. Concurrently in 2014, he joined the faculty of CELAMS in Centro Escolar University as an associate lecturer. And at present, he is now working at Eugenio Lopez Jr. Center for Media Arts Senior High School as a focal person for partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Erwin Apostol.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So, good evening to all our viewers this evening. So, before anything else, let me first present to you my screen. Okay. So, Miss Mitch, can you now see my screen?
Yes po, sir.
Okay. So, once again, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's session for the Learning at Home. So tonight, I'll be sharing with you as to how teachers and parents can facilitate learning at the comforts of their homes. Shortly after a month of giving the chance to talk here in Vibal, my topic during that time was engaging the Gen Z learners, diba? So this time, or after that talk, I actually received a lot of messages, of course, messages of appreciation, of gratitudes and all, but most of the questions that I received through social media has something to do with the strategies. I mean, the things that a teacher can do in their respective classes, in their respective subjects. And so when Vibal asked me again to conduct another webinar session or a talk, I actually thought about the strategies that may help us teachers in delivering our lessons. Thus, I come up with the title, Facilitating Learning at Home, Approaches and Strategies in Teaching High School Students. Okay? So I hope you are all ready. And while eating your dinner, join me this evening as I discuss with you the approaches and the strategies that we can make use in our respective classes. So, to formally start my talk this evening, I want to ask all of you who are watching us right now, are we really now ready for the opening of classes? So today is August 3, And more or less 20 days after today, we will now be officially opening our classes. In fact, there are already schools who already started their classes online. But for some or most of the schools, particularly the public schools, they will be opening up their classes on August 24. So, ang tanong, handa na ba talaga tayo? 'Di ba? Kung dati sa pagbubukas ng klase, ang iniisip lang natin yung classroom setup, yung mga learning materials na gagamitin natin, yung sectioning, and the parents ang iintindihin na lang niyan yung mga gamit ng mga anak nila, 'di ba? Pero ngayon, when I try to speak about readiness in terms of the new setup in our respective classes. Readiness in terms of the activities, the modules, diba? And readiness in terms of the online classes or the modular classes that we will be having this coming school year. So last night, when I am preparing for this presentation, I'm actually trying to search via YouTube, ano-ano nga ba yung mga problema na kakaharapin natin, be it whether you are a teacher, a parent, or a student, or an administrator. Isa yun sa mga tinignan ko and hopefully sana ma-share ko. Pero surprisingly, doon sa YouTube, when I search about the problems that we might be encountering this coming school year, ito yung ilan sa mga highlights, or ito yung ilan sa mga headlines na really struck me the most. So what are they? So sa pagbubukas ng klase ngayong darating na pasukan, among the videos that I got to see, this one is from 24 Oras, ilang magulang kinakabahan na magturo sa kanilang anak. Kasi nga, 'di ba, it was already reiterated that the parents will be the one who will be teaching their children, 'di ba? Not really teaching, pero who will facilitate or guide their children. Kaya nga, 'di ba, ang naging battle cry ng mga teachers noon, 'di ba? Parang ayan, may experience na ng mga magulang gaano nga ba kahirap magturo sa mga bata, 'di ba? Kumbaga sa klase, if a teacher is facing not just 50 learners, they are actually facing double the number of the students inside the classroom. Kasi aside from the fact that they are teaching the students, they are also communicating to the parents of these children, diba? So doble. Pero this time, mata-challenge naman ngayon yung mga magulang. Pero bukod dyan, yung teacher as well, diba? Parang they also have to see to it that they must be able to put across what must really be given to the students through the parents. Another one from TV Patrol, ilang magulang mas pipiliin ang modular class kaysa online class? Well, for practical reason, 'di ba? I mean, especially ngayon na magkakaroon tayo ulit ng another quarantine, or we will be going back again, or most of the areas in the Philippines or the metro will be going back again to the MECQ. 'Di ba? At saka yung expenses. There are a lot of people who are already considered unemployed o nawalan ng trabaho. So instead of, paying so much in the internet, 'di ba? Syempre, bibigay mo na lang 'yan sa pagkain ng pamilya nyo. So definitely, yung modular class ang pipiliin ng karamihan sa mga magulang. And then last video that struck me the most, DepEd, binigyang diin na mahalaga ang papel ng mga magulang sa pagtuturo sa mga bata sa bahay. So in here, it was again reiterated by this time by the Department of Education the role that a parent or a guardian will be portraying to their children. Kaya nga hindi rin natin masisisi yung mga ilan sa mga magulang natin na ayaw na lang i-enroll yung mga anak nila sa darating na pasukan. But I hope dun sa mga parents na nanonood ngayong gabi dito sa Vibal, I hope mabago pa yung inyong pag-iisip tungkol sa pag-enroll ng inyong mga anak, and hopefully i-enroll na po natin yung ating mga anak sa darating na pasukan. And for the teachers, tulad nga nung nabanggit ko kanina, last month, you are keep on asking about the strategies, the things that we can do in our classes, be it online or offline. this webinar session that I'll be sharing with you is something that we can consider as we enter the new school year, or the school year 2020-2021. So let's start this. So our goals for tonight, number one, differentiate teaching approach from teaching strategy. Second, revisit the 5 pedagogical approaches to use in K-12 curriculum. Third, I'll be providing you sample strategies which can be used in teaching high school students. So later on, as I go discussing about my topic this evening, aside from the sample strategies that I'll be showing to you, I will also be giving you some tips and considerations as to how are we going to go about the different approaches that I will be discussing this evening. So before I go on, since my topic has something to do with how are we going to facilitate learning at homes, the approaches and the teaching strategies that we may use as we enter or as we begin the opening of the classes. So isa sa mga pwede kong i-advise mga nanonood ngayon, be it sa mga teachers or the parents, when everything gets complicated, we must always go back again to the roots or to the foundation or to the basis of whatever the things that we will be doing. And so this evening, we will be discussing about the approaches. That's the reason why I'll be using the 5 pedagogical approaches that DepEd suggested us to follow. So let us begin first differentiating or putting the demarcation line between what approach or teaching approach is from what teaching strategy is. Okay? So allow me to discuss these things to you in the most simplest way, or in the most in the most simplest way I can in an hour or in less than an hour. Okay? So when we try to speak about teaching approach, isa lang isipin natin, these are the guiding principles. Okay? These are the principles that we are following in the teaching and the learning processes. So these are the theories that we are giving in, or the teaching and the learning process that we are anchoring in, or yung ating pinanghuhugutan, be it a teacher-centered approach, student-centered approach, or subject-centered approach. When we try to speak about teaching strategy naman, these are the set of the decisions that we are using or that we are doing in order for us to achieve the objective or the objectives that we set at the end of a certain lesson or a certain topic. So meaning to say, teaching approach, the broader one, ano yung pinanggagalingan ng teaching and learning process natin, ano yung pinanghuhugutan natin, saan naka-anchor yan. Pag sinabi naman natin teaching strategy, ano yung mga bagay na ginagawa natin para ma-attain natin, ano nga ba yung objective natin at the end of a certain lesson. Okay? I hope those things are clear to all of us. So, sabi ko nga kanina, we have to go back again to the basic. We have to go back again to the fundamentals, to the foundation. What is the basis of the approaches and the strategies that we will be doing? Now, according to the IRR, or the Implementing Rules and Regulations of Republic Act number 10533, or the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, under the section of the curriculum, it states that the curriculum shall use pedagogical approaches that are constructivist, inquiry-based, reflective, collaborative, and integrative, or the 2 C's, the 2 I's, and the 1 R. And that would be the very meat of our discussion this evening. The 5 pedagogical approaches and the strategies, the considerations, and the tips that we can make use in order to use these approaches. So again, these are the 2 C's, the 2 I's, and the 1 R. Okay? So we'll begin first with constructivism. Okay? When we try to speak about constructivism, construct, diba? When we do construct, when we are doing construction, we're actually starting with the basis, Okay? The base, the foundation, yung pinaka-umpisa, yung pinaka-foundation ng mga bagay. So it is an approach to learning that holds that people actively construct or make their own knowledge and that reality is determined by the experiences of the learner. Meaning to say, practically speaking, these are the idea of the learning by doing. Meaning, ang bata natututo kapag halimbawang siya mismo ang gumagawa sa isang bagay. Kapag pinagawa natin sa kanya ang isang bagay. So meaning to say, aside from the theories that we will be giving to the students, let them give them activities that is related to the subject that we are discussing. And it must be them who should be doing this activity. So the parents or the teachers by this time, since we'll be having some homeschooling this coming school year, must only serve as a facilitator or as a guide or a guidance to these people, to our students, to our children. However, again, dapat yung bata ang gagawa. So it believes as well in the personal construction of meaning by the learner through experience. And the meaning is influenced by the interaction of prior knowledge and new events. So babalikan natin yung idea ng schemata, diba? The prior knowledge. Meaning to say, the students or our children already have something in their minds. They already developed something. However, this knowledge or information must be enhanced through the different learning experiences that we might be giving to them. So dito din papasok actually yung mga whenever we will be presenting new ideas to them, we must always see to it that the examples that we are going to give to them is directly related to them. So dito ulit papasok yung idea na dapat kilala natin yung mga bata o kikilalanin muna natin yung mga bata na meron tayo, especially now, di ba? Na magkakaroon, na most of the classes or most of the learning experiences will be coming from or will be done inside their homes, di ba? Na hindi lahat ng bata iisa ng mga resources na meron sila, di ba? So as much as possible, the activities or the learning tasks that must be given to them must something be in general, must be something general in the sense, okay? So later on, mas magbibigay pa ako ng mga ilan sa mga halimbawa. So what are the principles of constructivism? Or, I mean, yung mga dapat nating isinasaalang-alang whenever we will be following the idea of constructivism. Number one, knowledge is constructed rather than innate or passively absorbed. Diba? So gone are the days that the teachers are the ones giving the whole lectures. Gone are the days that we are seeing our children as an empty vessel. So, ano ang pwede natin gawin sa mga bata natin ngayon? Actually, bigyan mo lang yan ng isang question and then let them explore. They can actually do it perfect. Not really perfectly, but they can actually do it, you know, na hindi natin inaakala na kaya pala lang magawa yung mga ganong bagay. And then, mas maganda ngayon na sila ay nasa bahay nila. Since we are talking about constructivism and the people around them, diba, we must also take into consideration na isama o involve yung mga tao sa bahay nila. Let's say, for example, provide an activity wherein they can ask questions to the elderlies o dun sa mga nakatatanda, sa mga nanay, sa mga tatay, sa kapatid kung meron man, o di kaya naman sa mga kapitbahay. Now, another principle of constructivism is that it is an active process. Since the learner is the doer of the action or of the knowledge itself, doon pumapasok yung idea na it's an active process, meaning to say, since yung bata mismo yung gumagawa ng kanyang pagkatuto, na nade-develop mismo doon sa bata, ano nga ba yung mga bagay na gusto niyang matutunan at yung mga bagay na, let's say for example, hindi niya nagawa ng tama, nagkakaroon siya ng realization at the end ng lesson na, okay, nagkamali ako sa ganitong part. Kasi ganito yung ginawa ko. Okay, ito yung nakuha ko. Kasi tama yung ginawa kong procedure. So nagkakaroon siya ng realization at the end. So later on, makikita ninyo rin, as I discuss the different pedagogical approaches, the 5 approaches that I made mention earlier are interrelated to one another. Kaya mapapansin ninyo na yung ilan sa mga examples ko na babanggitin is mababanggit ko din mamaya. Another principle of constructivism is that knowledge is socially constructed. Okay? So, dito papasok yung idea ng social constructivism, wherein we are actually seeing the environment and the people around that person or that learner is also very much important. Bakit? Have you ever wondered, yung mga parents natin, di ba, na minsan sa bahay natin, di ba, ang dami nating rules, ang daming bawal, di ba? Let's say, bawal magmura sa loob ng bahay, di ba? Kumbaga parang ano yan, kadalasan sa pamilyang Pilipino, di ba? Golden rule yan sa atin, di ba? Dati nga meron pa tayong idea na pipit-pitin ng bibig, papakainin ng sili kapag narinig magmura, di ba? So yung mga bata talaga, yung mga anak talaga natin, alam natin hindi nagmumura. However, paglabas ng mga bata sa tahanan natin, we do not know exactly who are the people that they are interacting with. I mean, the environment that they are having with, right? Kaya nga minsan tayo, we are very particular with the friends of our children. So, ganun din yung idea ng constructivism, na yung mga bata o yung mga taong nakakasalamuha ng mga anak natin and yung environment na kung nasaan itong mga batang ito, they are actually a contributory factor to the knowledge and to the learners of these, to the learnings of these children. So, it is also very important that as teachers, whenever we are providing an activity or a task to our students, we must always see to it that the people that they are interacting with are the ones who will contribute much, to the betterment of the children or of the student. Okay? So ito yung sinabi ko sa inyo kanina na whenever we will be doing some tasks or activities to the students, it is also good na ilagay natin dun sa activity na yung involvement ng ibang tao, like if they are going to interview somebody, diba, to get information, or pwede rin naman dun sa mga forums natin, sa mga online, kung meron tayong mga online classes, diba, may mga forums doon, you allow, or you're not really require, but you encourage your students to comment or to discuss even in online even via online. In that way, we can actually target yung idea na the knowledge is socially constructed. Lastly, all knowledge is personal. Personal siya. You know, teachers, diba, when we are doing or when we are discussing something inside the class and talking with 40 to 50 students, isa lang naman yung sinasabi natin sa lahat ng estudyante natin, right? Pero yung estudyante, they take our lessons or they take our subjects or the lessons differently. Because again, it depends on the subjective interpretation of the students. So dito ulit papasok na kinakailangan kilalanin natin yung mga bata natin, and the examples, the activities must be directly related to our learners. Okay? So what are some of the examples that we can do in our classes when we are anchoring our philosophies or our approaches to this kind of pedagogy? Yung mga role-playing, real-life simulations, hands-on creative activities, experimentation, research projects, field trips, and films. These are just some, okay? These are just some. And these are the things that we are doing before, diba? So, dun sa ating mga listeners and sa mga viewers natin this evening, I am also encouraging you to comment or to post your comments in the comment box. Ano yung mga binibigay ninyong yung mga consider nating best practices sa mga klase natin. And in that way, we may be able to share whatever the things that we are doing in our classes doon naman sa mga ibang listeners or viewers natin this evening. So itong mga bagay na ito, these strategies or activities that we are doing before in our classes, we can actually still do it inside their houses. I mean, inside the houses of the children. Depende na nga lang din yan sa creativity ng ating mga teachers. Halimbawa, you present, after presenting your lesson, after presenting your topic, and you have this performance task, di ba? Kung before, ang ginagawa natin, isang performance task lang, o nakakulong lang sa isang bagay yung gagawin nilang performance task. Let's say, for example, gagawa sila ng skit, gagawa sila ng kanta, or magdadrama sila. You know, this time, pwede natin gawin, let us allow our students to choose or give them the freedom na ano nga ba yung paraan na gusto nilang ipakita yung kanilang pagkatuto doon sa ating lesson. Sa paanong paraan? Pwede halimbawa through creative presentations. What are these creative presentations? You allow them to choose their own. You allow them to have their own creative presentations. Nandiyan yung pwede silang flip-top battle, or pwede naman gumawa sila ng sarili nilang tula, o gumawa sila ng sarili nilang kanta and all. Okay? Next, collaborative approach. So after constructivism, we have collaborative. So when we try to speak about collaborative, collaborate. Diba? So sabi nga natin, dun sa constructivism, knowledge is socially constructed. Therefore, paano siya magiging socially constructive? You collaborate with one another. Pwede 2 to 3 groups, 2 to 3 members, diba? You know, wag na siguro yung masyadong malalaking group members or groupings. Kasi kadalasan naka-question din dyan yung efforts na ginagawa ng mga members. So collaborative learning is an educational approach to reaching and learning that involves groups of learners working together to solve problems, complete a task, or create a product. So what are the considerations in using or in doing collaborative learning? Number 1, introduce group or peer work early in the semester to set clear student expectations. Establish ground rules, participation, and contributions. Plan for each stage of group work. Fourth, carefully explain to your students how groups or per discussion will operate and how students will be graded. Now, ganito naman yung ginagawa ko in terms of collaborative learning. For the season 1, or for those who already are doing or who are already having their lessons, let's say for example 2 or 3 years, most probably you already know the things that you may do as we begin the opening of the classes. So dapat sa umpisa pa lang ng klase, nilalatag na natin sa mga bata o sa estudyante, ano nga ba talaga yung gagawin natin if in case we will be doing some group activities. Bakit? Dito kasi binibigyan natin ng linaw yung mga estudyante natin na ito yung goal natin at the end of a certain quarter. Ito yung goal natin at the end of a week or at the end of the semester. Now, mula doon sa goals na yun or mula doon sa activity na yun, gumagawa tayo ng rules and regulations, okay? The rules and regulations na isi-set natin, maganda rin, sabi nga natin, di ba, it must be collaborative, it must be personal. You also try to ask the students or you ask the participation of the students in making the rules. Hindi lang yung teacher lang yung magbibigay ng rules. Example, hanggang kailan natin gagawin yung ganitong tasks? Kailan natin siya isasubmit? Sa tingin nyo ba, pag sinabit natin ng ganyan, matatapos ninyo sa target date natin? Kasi in that way, kapag kasama ang bata sa paggawa ng rules and regulations, hindi na yan magrereklamo sa atin kapag halimbawang nagkaroon ng problema along the way. Kasi kapag halimbawang ikaw lang nag-impose ng rules, eventually, sisisihin ka pa ng bata na kasi siya lang naman ang may gusto niya. Kasi si ma'am, si sir, masyadong mahigpit yung deadline and all. So as much as possible, you also try to involve the students in making the rules. Plan for each stage of group work. Ito naman, gumagawa kami ng calendar. Calendar of activities. Ano yung kailangang matapos on this day? Ano yung kailangang matapos on this week? And so on and so forth. Okay? And then, explain to your students how groups or per discussion will operate and how students will be graded. Importante din yan. Diyan papasok yung mga rubrics natin. Okay? So later on, may ipapakita din ako sa inyo mga sample ng mga rubrics. Fifth, help students develop the skills they need to succeed, such as using team building exercises, or introducing self-reflection techniques. Dito naman papasok yung tinatawag nating scaffolding, tsaka yung zone of proximal development, theory ni Lev Vygotsky. Diba sa scaffolding, kumbaga parang before you were able to attain the bigger objective or the bigger goal, mag-uumpisa muna tayo sa maliit na mga tasks. Sixth, consider using written contracts. Ay, eto, maganda to. Actually, my colleague in ELJ is doing this. Yung meron silang written contracts na kapag halimbawa hindi nagawa ng bata ito, kapag hindi napasa yung ganito, may mga kaakibat siya ng mga deduction or rewards or punishments. Maganda rin yan kasi at least dyan makikita din ng mga parents yung paano nga ba dinideal ng mga teachers yung kanilang mga anak. And same thing goes with the parents. Perhaps you can also do this in your children, di ba? Na meron kayong kasunduan na kapag halimbawa hindi nagawa to ng anak ninyo, anong pwedeng mangyari? O kapag nagawa naman niya, ano ang pwede nyong maibigay sa kanila, di ba? Yung rewards and punishments naman yan siya. O the reinforcement. Incorporate self-assessment and peer assessment for group members to evaluate their own and others' contributions. Ito magandang magandang practice since it's a collaborative one, di ba? Yung may self-assessment at saka may peer assessment. Actually, ito, I've learned this naman back when I was in college, particularly kay Ma'am Ellen Parayno. Yan, may social science professor in NTC. Actually, dito naman, ang ginagawa niya sa amin, after a certain task, after a certain presentation of a particular topic, yung bago matapos ang isang quarter doon sa isang semester, meron kaming session na kung saan she are asking us individually how are we going to rate ourselves from 1 to 10. 1 is the lowest and 10 as the highest. Pero meron siya ditong remarks na or warning na kapag masyadong abuso yung binigay mong grade sa sarili mo, let's say for example, binigyan ko yung sarili ko ng 10, hindi naman ako karapat dapat sa 10. She has this authority to adjust it. Okay? O di kaya naman, masyado kang humble, binigyan mo yung sarili mo ng 4, kahit na alam naman ng lahat na naging magaling ka. Again, she has this authority to adjust it. So, nagkakaroon ngayon ng objectiveness doon sa bata na, okay, paano ko ba i-rate yung sarili ko? So, ikaw mismo, yung bata mismo, ina-assess na niya, ano nga ba talaga yung karapat-dapat na grado para sa akin? So, napakagandang halimbawa noon kasi I also done that in my previous classes when I started teaching in LCCM, in La Consolacion, in CEU, and in ELJ. So, you can also do that. And then peer assessment. Yan. I mean, let us also allow our classmates or friends to assess us. Next approach, inquiry-based approach. Ayan. Sa inquiry-based approach naman, inquire, di ba? When we inquire, we ask questions. And when we ask questions, we generate information. We generate answers. Sabi nga, di ba, parang paano mo malalaman na may bago kang natutunan? Paano? Di ba? Sabi, kapag halimbawang nabanggit mo o kapag nabanggit mo yung katagang, aha. 'Di ba? So ibig sabihin you learn something. You learned a new one, 'di ba? That is also one of the things that we can do in inquiry-based approach, when the students started to ask questions, they are the ones generating answer from their own question. Remember, diba, there are so many questions that needs to be answered or that needs an answer. So why not try to why not try these students to ask questions for themselves and let them answer as well these questions. Kadalasan ginagawa natin yan sa mga research class, sa science class, pero mind you, again, since these are approaches, it can be done in all subjects, okay? So it is an approach to learning that emphasizes the student's role in the learning process. Rather than the teacher telling students what they need to know, students are encouraged to explore the material, ask questions, and share ideas. Later, I'll be showing to you how are we going to conduct inquiry-based approach in our classes. So inquiry-based learning focuses on investigating an open question or problem. They must use evidence-based reasoning and creative problem solving to reach a conclusion. And then eventually, they must defend or present it. After defending and presenting whatever knowledge or information they got, eventually, mag-i-elicit na naman siya ng another question which needs to be answered as well. So in that way, nagkakaroon siya ng cycle. Cycle ng question and ng answer. Thus, Bruce presented or provided a model. He called it the cyclic inquiry model. So wherein we are starting we start letting the students to ask a question, and then they are the ones who will be investigating from these questions. From the investigation, when we investigate, we get information, we collect information. From those informations, we are actually creating or synthesizing the voluminous information or the knowledge that we are getting from our investigation. Now, after synthesizing the information, we then discuss it. We may discuss it to our peers, to our classmates, to other people, and then we are actually defending whatever the information or knowledge that we were able to get. And then eventually, after asking, after defending, or after presenting it to other people, we now do reflection. Magre-reflect tayo. Tama nga ba? May mali nga ba? Diba? Ano pa nga ba yung pwede kong i-improve? Ano yung pwede kong tanggalin and all? And then we go back again to asking questions. Like this one, diba? Before I come up with a presentation or the whole presentations that I made tonight, nagkaroon din muna ng mga investigation. I also created or synthesized it. I also presented this to some of my friends, to some of my mentors from the past. Yan, later, shoutout natin sila. Yan. So these are the models that you can make use of. Okay? The cyclic inquiry model. Let's say, for example, sa klase natin, so sabi ko nga, hindi lang siya ginagamit sa science at sa research. Actually, I used this before in my social sciences class. Our topic at that time has something to do with culture. The introduction of the culture, I asked them, or I allowed them to observe their environment. I gave them particular things that they have to observe. Example, tambay. Okay? So doon sa tambay na topic, meron lamang akong questions na bakit, paano, and then the recommendations. Okay? Ano, bakit, paano, and then the recommendations. Ano ang tambay, bakit sila naging tambay, paano sila naging tambay, and then ano yung mga resolutions or recommendations nila. So, napansin ko at that time, di ba, parang at times, we do have negative impression sa mga tambay. Tama? Maaari yun lang din yung idea na meron yung mga estudyante natin. Pero after the investigation, after they collected the information and discussed it with people, with their classmates, you know what, their reflections, iba doon sa nauna. Kung negative yung impression nila sa tambay, eventually nagkaroon sila ng mga reflection na kung saan, bakit naging tambay yung mga tao. Nagkaroon ng mga mismatch sa trabaho, 'di ba? Maaring gumraduate yung isang tao pero eventually hindi 'yon yung hinahanap ng industry. Maaring tambay siya kasi limited lamang yung trabaho na ino-offer. Maaring naging tambay siya kasi natanggal siya sa trabaho because of certain reasons. So nagkakaroon ng ibang information, nagkakaroon ng ibang knowledge when we do inquiry-based approach. So, sa mga klase natin, pwede ito yung isa sa mga bagay na gawin din natin in order for us to generate new information or new knowledge. Okay? Next, integrative approach. When we say integrative approach, integration can be vertical or horizontal. Vertical integration or horizontal integration o yung pagsasama-sama ng mga disciplines. Kasi pag when we combine or when we put together these disciplines into one aspect, into one task, the students are actually seeing the relationship of one discipline to another one. Nagkakaroon ngayon yan ng matibay na valuable dun sa bata. Kasi nakikita niya na, kailangan ko tong subject na to dito sa isa pang subject. So, kailangan ko siyang aralin parehas. Okay. Kasi kailangan ko tong subject na to, kailangan ko yung competency dito sa subject na to para magawa ko yung big goal na binibigay sa akin ng teacher. Halimbawa, actually, I am very lucky. I am very fortunate that I was able to explore what integration is during my first year of teaching in La Consolacion College, Manila. We had this integration under the leadership of our assistant principal by that time, si Ms. Verna Santos, when she presented to us what we called links. Yung links na yun yung term namin ng integration sa La Consolacion. Links stands for Linkages in Nature, Knowledge, and Skills. In this particular activity, yung mga subject teachers, nagkakaroon kami ng meeting, isang araw na meeting, tapos pinag-uusapan namin doon yung mga topics namin at yung topics na pwede namin i-relate doon sa isa pang subject. So it is an approach where the learner brings together prior knowledge and set of experience to support new learning. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina, di ba? Na parang yung previous lessons, yung previous topics, i-relate natin sa bago, pero ang kagandahan naman sa integration, isasama pa natin yung ibang discipline. Isasama pa natin yung ibang subject. By doing this, learners draw on their skills and apply them to new experience at a more complex level. Actually, yung isa sa ginawa namin noon before, United Nations. Ito maganda rin gawin sa mga schools natin. Kung meron dito mga academic, mga department heads na nakikinig, di ba? O kahit yung mga teachers lang. Alam nyo, kahit kayo lang mag-meeting, small group discussion, di ba? Mga LAC sessions natin. Pag-usapan nyo lang, di ba? Ano-ano yung mga bagay na ginagawa ninyo sa klase. Sa amin kasi, meron di ba, per month meron tayong celebration. United Nations, that's actually one big activity that we had in La Consolacion before. Mula dun sa United Nations na yun, hinanapan namin ngayon yung mga subjects namin, paano namin ipapasok ngayon doon sa United Nations na activity, yung lessons namin plus yung pinaka-big activities namin. The big activities sa United Nations, per subject nag-usap-usap. Paano kami makakapasok sa United Nations? Sciences, yung recycling materials, 'di ba? Tapos pumasok ngayon diyan yung value sa environment, 'di ba? Yung preservation, conservation ng environment. Sa social sciences, ang maganda rin diyan na ginawa namin, nagkaroon sila ng community outreach. Yan, 'di ba? So may activity ka na, meron ka pang community outreach, 'di ba? Ano pa yung iba? Sa religion namin, yung lesson nila sa religion, yun ngayon yung naging pinaka-theme ng aming United Nations. So, iba-iba pa siya sa Filipino, sa languages. So, it is just really a matter of communicating the learning competencies of one subject to another. Yun nga lang, siguro, ang isang nakikita ko na needs to be, our teachers needs to be mindful about doing some integration, hindi kinakailangang ipilit na i-integrate yung subject natin kung hindi naman nakikita yung connection. Kasi ang magsasuffer naman dyan is yung bata. So, pwede naman mag-integrate 2, 3, 4 na subjects. Kung kaya nyo i-integrate yung buong subjects, why not? Diba? Pero kung hindi kaya, wag. Okay? So, integrative approach, the concept behind integrative learning is that students take ownership of their own learning. It becomes evaluative who are able to establish meaningful connections between different disciplines and utilize critical thinking to real-life problems. And eventually, nakikita nila yung connection nun sa totoong buhay. Okay? Okay. So these are, sa integration, sa integrative approach, isa sa pinaka-importanting bagay na kailangan isaalang-alang natin dyan ay yung ating rubrics. Remember that what you are looking at to your children or to the learners is yung subject mo. So kinakailangan yung rubrics mo aligned doon sa subject mo. So may chance at may pagkakataon na magkakaroon kayo ng pagkakaiba-iba ng rubrics. Bakit? Kasi nga magkakaiba naman kayo ng tinitignan doon sa learning activity. Halimbawa, ito yung rubrics na ginamit ko doon sa kanilang creative presentation. The rubric has something to do with the collaborative work skills. So meaning to say, pati yung participation ng bawat estudyante, ng bawat learner, chine-check at gine-gradean ko. Okay? And then, ito naman yung isa, their activity is the campaign ad. Okay? So the students are expected to develop a campaign advertisement containing the different contributions of the different ancient civilizations developed in the world. So ito naman yung big outcomes, which is the campaign ad. So it's also a different rubrics to be used. Now, if you are having difficulty making your rubrics for your performance tasks o dun sa mga tasks na binibigay natin sa mga estudyante, you can actually go to www.rubystar.com. That, again, uulitin ko, www.rubystar.com. So later siguro i-comment ko din dun sa comment box yung mga links. Doon kasi sa website na yun, meron na siyang mga ready-made rubrics. From the ready-made rubrics, pwede mo rin siyang i-edit para maging more personalized yung rubrics na gagamitin mo. So, hindi ka na mahihirapan na gumawa ng mga rubrics para sa mga activities mo. Okay? I hope that website would help our listeners this evening. Okay? Next, reflective approach. Yan. Isa to sa mga magagandang approach na pwede nating gawin this coming school year, especially that we will be venturing to some home school activities. When we try to speak about reflective, it involves students thinking about what they have read, done, or learned, relating the lesson to hand to their own lives and making meaning out of the material. Reflection. Diba? So, what are the advantages of reflective learning? First, accepting responsibility for your learning and as a result for your personal growth. Since reflection or reflective learning is something personal, diba? So, yung bata mismo, marirealize niya. Saan nga ba siya nagkamali? Saan nga ba naging maganda yung ginawa niya? And eventually, nagiging part siya ng personal growth ng bata. Becoming metacognitive or aware of your internal thinking process or learning beyond thinking. Diba? Yung nag-reflect ka na pero nag-internalize ka pa sa sarili mo. Ako ang ginagawa ko naman dyan as my strategy is yung mga journals, diaries, becoming aware of your motives with your actions. Ayan. 'Di ba? Yung ano nga ba talaga yung motibo natin, bakit natin 'to ginawa? Kasi 'di ba minsan halimbawa may binigay kang task dun sa bata. Yung bata ginawa niya ng madalian. Eventually, pag nag-reflect yung bata, ma-realize niya, okay, nag-feel ako kasi nagmamadali ako eh. Okay, nag-feel ako kasi hindi ako nagtanong sa iba. Kasi hindi ko siya sineryoso, 'di ba? So, nagkakaroon ngayon siya ng accountability doon sa bata. So, next time, ganito na yung gagawin ko. Okay. So, next time, hindi ko na to gagawin. Okay. Next time, magtatanong ako sa iba. Seeing a link between the work you are putting into learning and what you are getting out of it. Okay? So, again, sabi ko nga, isa sa mga bagay na ginagawa ko dyan yung mga journals or yung mga personal diaries ng mga bata. Kasi, minsan, dun sa mga diaries and journal na yan, yung mga bata, may mga estudyante tayo na intra-personal, 'di ba? Yung mga hindi sila masyadong socially hindi sila masyadong socialize. I mean yung nakikihalubilo sa iba, 'di ba? So minsan gusto lang din yan yung mapag-isa sila, pero gusto rin niya na may mapagsabihan sila. Sino yung pwede na lang pagsabihan? Journals, diaries, okay? Reflection. So, allow me to use this phrase from Rosalie Serra on why reflective teaching is important. According to her, you might find as you progress that there is an area of knowledge you need to know more about, which is true. So never be afraid to ask for help or advice. There's nothing wrong with asking, how can I do it better? Diba? And so tayo din mga teachers, diba? Let us not afraid to ask. How can we do things better? How can we do our day-to-day, the teaching learning process better? Diba? Do not be afraid in asking questions. Because doing this is not a sign of being an underwhelming teacher. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It shows you are brave and professional. We are brave enough to accept that we do not know everything, that we do need the help of one another. So sabi ko nga, diba, with the approaches that I mentioned a while ago, these are also the approaches that we can do in terms of our teaching. To be constructive, to collaborate with other teachers, do the inquiry based. Let's ask one another. Let's ask ourselves, diba? Integrative. Let us try to integrate some of the subjects in our discipline, in our own disciplines. And then lastly, reflect. At the end of the day, before we go to the bed at night, later on, diba? What have we learned? Ano nga ba yung natutunan natin? Paano pa nga ba natin mai-improve yung sarili natin? Paano pa nga ba natin mai-improve yung mga bagay na ginagawa natin sa mga estudyante natin? Lalo pa ngayon, 'di ba, na yung mga bata natin ay nasa loob ng bahay, doon sila mag-aaral, 'di ba? Module, online, so whatever it is, at the end of the day we have to reflect. So again, the 5 pedagogical approaches that we have to bear in our minds, especially that we will be starting the school year 2020-2021. Constructivism, collaborative, inquiry-based, integrative, and reflexive. So this evening, allow me also to share with you some of the offerings of VIBAL, which is also connected with these 5 pedagogical approaches. So a while ago, they presented to us the Learn at Home kits. This is also the one that we can make use of in our classes. As a teacher, as a parent, diba? It also constitutes the 5 pedagogical approaches. Why? Because the kit contains about the drills and the exercises that our children need, the activity sheets, the graphic organizers, and the performance tasks that our children also been needing, or that could also help in attaining the different lessons. And then they also have here the supplement materials. Sabi nga natin kanina, 'di ba? The teaching approaches must be collaborative. It must be constructive, constructivist, 'di ba? And we can only do that by having not just one resources, not just one single resources, learning resources, but other learning materials. And sa mga parents natin na nakikinig ngayon, di ba, na nangangamba pa rin if they can really do, teaching the children or their child, di ba? Yes, the Learning at Home kit also provides a material or a guide. May guide siya para sa mga parents natin. And of course, activity books. And what is also good about this, sabi nga natin, lahat tayo nagtitipid, di ba? So this activity is one of the public service of Vibal. So, yes, it's for free. Yan. So, libre po siya. So, you can make use of that, in guiding the learning process of our children, the teaching learning processes of our children. Because the teachers, they also see the students the teachers also seeing these students as their children. Okay? So, let me now go back again to my first question in this webinar. Are we now ready for the opening of classes? So I hope after the many webinars of Vibal, we are all, diba? Be it a teacher, a parent, or students, or an administrator of the school, I hope we are now all ready for the opening of classes. Okay? So, that's it for my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something from my presentation. Thank you so much. So if you do have questions, messages, last time nakakatuwa kasi ang daming nag-messages of, the appreciation, the gratitude that I've got from different parts of, the Philippines. So you can see me or search me in my Facebook, Instagram, and email address. And then I know most of you would like to have an access with the presentation that I gave this evening. Yung iba yata hindi ko na-replyan before, pero yung iba ay naaalala ko naman, nagre-reply naman po ako. Ayun. I'll be providing you the link for my presentation dun sa comment box ng session this evening para dun sa mga gusto maka-access dun sa aking PowerPoint. You can freely use this. You can go over again with the presentation, especially that most of the examples that I gave a while ago ay in-explain ko lang at hindi ko lagay dun sa PowerPoint. Okay? So thank you so much, mga ka-Vibal, and have a great night, and I hope you are now enjoying your dinner. Okay? So, Ma'am Mitch and Ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much po, Sir Erwin. So we have few questions here from our viewers. So, yes po.
Ma'am Mitch, before we have the question and answer, para makolect muna natin mga questions, please allow me to greet some of my friends, those people who really supported me this evening in this particular webinar.
No worries po.
So I would like to especially greet those people who helped me, in making this presentation. First, of course, kay Sir Renato Felipe from SDO Manila. Hi, sir. Kay Ma'am Mariel Luna from SDO Muntinlupa, I believe. Kay Ma'am Leonor Banyes, pinadalhan niya ako ng dinner. Thank you, ma'am. Kakain ako later after this. Ayan, thank you so much, Ma'am Leonor. And of course, dun sa sa community, sa SDO Quezon City, of course, headed by Ma'am Jenny Corpus. And of course, sa community ng School Partnership Focal Person. Yan, sila Sir Philip, si Sir JJ, saka sila Ma'am Jenny. At saka yung mga kasamahan ko sa School Partnership Focal Person. Of course, schools ko from ELJ. Headed, of course, of our principal, Sir Noel. And of course, yeah. Thank you po. Okay, let's now move on to the Q&A.
Okay, sir. Our first question is from Miss Claire Corazon. Sir, isa po akong parent and I have three
Very.
kids to assist in their online class now. How can a parent like me can manage or balance household responsibilities and teaching or assisting my kids when at the same time I have work at home din po?
Oo, no, tamang-tama yung question ni Ma'am. Ma'am Claire, tama ba? Dun sa ating session this evening, 'di ba? Yes, 'di ba? Parang most of the people right now, 'di ba? Kung hindi nawalan ng trabaho, nagwo-work from home. Ngayon, kay Ma'am, tatlo pa yung anak niya, 'di ba? So paano natin siya matutulungan? You know, schools nowadays, I mean, I believe most of the schools, if not all of the schools, are having this some kind of personalized system in terms of doing their classes. Perhaps you could, ask the school or open up your communication to the school administration or to the teachers in terms of, you know, um, in terms of the scheduling the scheduling of the classes of the children. I believe kung ano naman yan, kung homeschooling naman din yung mga bata natin, magbibigay ng mga activities sila teacher o yung school dun sa mga bata. Tapos siguro yung mga parents natin diyan, we can set a schedule, time management ba na kung saan on this particular time ito yung work ko. On this time naman, i-assess ko naman yung mga anak ko. And then, makakatulong din, of course, ito, yung pinapresent ng Wibal sa atin, yung Learn at Home Kits, na kung saan it's a supplementary material na pwede nating gamitin plus yung resources na ibinibigay ng teacher. So, yun yung ilan sa mga bagay na pwede nating gawin. And then, isa pa, yung mga approaches na nabanggit ko kanina, kaya I hope I was able to explain it in the most simplest way para nang sa gayon makarelate pa rin tayo as a parent kahit hindi tayo as a teacher. Yung ilan sa mga bagay na pwede nating magawa doon sa mga anak natin. Like, yun nga, yung pagbibigay sa kanila ng mga rewards and punishments, pagbibigay din sa kanila ng mga reflection, 'di ba? Yun, yung ilan sa mga bagay nun. And then pwede din yung you allow also your kids na to search in the internet if and when kailangan siya, 'di ba? And then eventually si mother or si father, i-check na lang niya, double check na lang niya, oh anak, sa tingin mo tama ba 'yan? O sa tingin mo ba mali yan? And so on and so forth. Pwede niyang yung more on guidance lang.
Okay po, sir. Thank you so much. Next question po is from Miss Milette Salazar. Sir, what suggestion can you give if there will be parents who will meddle during your online class, complaining about your class? How do you think the teacher should handle this?
Oh, ang ganda ng question ni ma'am. Totoo, no? Madami din yung mga ganyan. Kung before kasi sa regular classes, 'di ba? Parang minsan malalaman na lang nung teacher na may hindi naman nagrereklamo na may mga concerns yung mga parents after a certain after a certain learning session, 'di ba? Pag-uwi ng mga anak natin. Pero ngayon, 'di ba? O nga no, kung online 'yan at homeschooling, 'di ba? Habang nagkaklase biglang may parent na magtatanong ito yung sinabi ko during my last talk, 'di ba? Parang ang nabanggit ko kasi doon, ang suggestion ko kasi doon, the teachers, okay? The teachers must allot a certain time or a consultation time for the parents naman. Kasi hindi natin maiiwasan na yung mga parents may mga questions. And we do not want naman na the parents will interfere or intervene at the middle of the classes, be it online. I mean, especially if it's online, 'di ba? Talagang nakaka-distract 'yan. Pero if the parents know that there is a specific time for them to ask or to air out their concerns to respective teachers, maiiwasan yung mga ganong bagay. Perhaps a certain time a certain time for the students, and then a certain time or a dialogue time for the parents. Now, the next question would be there is, sir, yung common time, paano yung common time, 'di ba? Yan. Ngayon, we can make use of the different platforms naman. We do have the FB groups, 'di ba? They can post their questions or their concerns there. And then on your particular time or on your specific time, you can answer those concerns or questions. Hindi lang FB group ang meron. I believe kung halimbawang private schools yan, private schools are also offering different platforms, 'di ba? So meron niyang mga platforms na kung saan parents could have an access doon sa mga bagay na ginagawa ng teacher at saka ng estudyante online. So it's just a matter really of the parents asking the school administrators or the teachers regarding the concerns that we have. So kung hindi nag-open up si teacher ng ganong klaseng dialogue or communication, siguro the parents naman have the right to ask or to open up, an issues or a communication or a suggestion like this doon sa parents concerned. Ayun
Okay po, sir. Thank you so much for our last questions for tonight from Mr. Charles de la Piedra. Good evening po, sir. What if ang high school student po ay demotivated to attend online class? How can we encourage them?
Paano kung hindi motivated yung estudyante na umattend ng ating mga online classes? Ayan. Again, ma'am, ano po yung pangalan ni sir?
Charles po, sir.
Sir Charles, ayan. Sir Charles, meron akong webinar din na ginawa dito sa Vibal that's engaging Gen Z learners to the new normal classroom. Meron akong mga activities doon, online activities doon na ginawa na kung saan paano natin mamomotivate at may engage itong mga batang ito. Second, in terms of motivation, in terms of motivating our students, again, ang parati kong binabanggit kasi dyan, before we begin anything in our classes, we must always see to it that we know our learners. Because only if we know our learners, we know where to get their interest and we know where to get their attention. Sabi ko nga kung halimbawa yung mga bata natin masyado pang playful dahil high school yan, masyadong maligali, gusto ng mga activities. 'Di ba? Kung hindi natin magagawa yung physical activities, then gawin naman natin online learning activities. Kung yung mga bata naman natin, alam natin na gusto naman nila yung mga parang kasi merong iba na self-face 'di ba? Merong iba na parang gusto nila yung kaya ko namang gawin yan ng ako lang. Kaya ko namang gawin yan ng wala yung ibang tao kahit hindi naka-online, di ba? Pwede pa rin naman. Pwede tayong gumawa ng mga self-paced learning materials, self-paced learning activities. I mean, we should not always be forcing our students na to engage in our classes. Ay, yung sapilitan ba? Kasi kapag halimbawa nakuha natin yung attention ng mga estudyante natin, they themselves are the ones who will be, entering your classes. Minsan nga baka hindi ka pa nag-uumpisa ng online class mo o ng module activities mo. Baka sila pa ang mag-demand sa'yo na, sir, mag-umpisa na tayo. Sir, bigyan mo na kami ng ganito, ganyan. Only, again, if we will be knowing really our learners. Doon talaga po mag-uumpisa yan. If we want to motivate our students, we have to know them personally. Okay? Ayun. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for answering the questions of our viewers, sir. For now, may I ask you for the last reminders for our viewers tonight po?
Ayun po. So, again, thank you so much po sa mga nanood ng ating live FB webinar, of course, under Vibal. Now, if you still do have other questions, concerns, or anything that you would like me to know about, feel free to message me in my social media accounts, in my Facebook, Instagram, or in my email address. And then, siguro yun nga po yung kanina nabanggit ko, yung kung saan pwede kayong makakuha ng mga free rubrics para sa mga learning activities natin at saka yung copy ng PowerPoint ko para at least talaga lahat ng may gusto para hindi ilalagay ko na lang doon sa comment section ng FB Live po natin. Ayun po. So maraming salamat po sa pagtangkilik sa Vibal, sa webinars ng Vibal, and of course sa patuloy na pagtangkilik sa tuwing ako ay merong mga sessions, webinar sessions. I hope maging maganda ang pag-uumpisa ng ating klase this coming August, and I hope, tulad nga ng question ko kanina, ay ready na po tayong lahat as we begin the new school year. So thank you so much po. Maraming salamat.
There we have it. So in behalf of Bibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank you, Sir Erwin Apostol, for being with us this evening and for having this very comprehensive and insightful learning session with us. For sure, our parents and our teachers, as our viewers for tonight, learned a lot from you. It is really an honor to have you with us tonight. And to all our Kabibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Muli maraming salamat at magandang gabi sa ating lahat. See you all again tomorrow morning in another Facebook Live session. Goodbye!